My dad had a very close call in Vung Tau. He was flying back to base, and the enemy were firing over his plane, and he needed help. An angel came into that mission. Somebody that my dad kind of referred to as a new best friend from artillery. This artilleryman supported my dad's escape. My dad told me, and I'll never forget it, he said a lot of the enemy died that day to save him. An angel and God's intervention. My dad knew prayer was his mightiest weapon.
That is Harris Faulkner. You know her from Fox News, of course, an author of a book, a bestseller, Faith Still Moves Mountains. And you see her on Outnumbered. You see her on the Faulkner Focus. But I recently was able to take in her special on Fox Nation. And it is about her father and his service in Vietnam. She joins us now. Harris Faulkner, welcome back to the Annie Frey Show.
Well, hello, Annie. Thank you so very much for having me. And you're talking about a body of work now that was the most personal that I've ever been. And I learned things about my own dad and my own family's legacy with patriotism through in and out of the civil rights era, so on and so forth. He joined the military right in the middle of all of that. And it taught me more about who I am and who my children will be, because they were exposed to Grandpa and Grandma before they both most recently passed. So I'm so blessed by the fact that you took the time to watch it. I want to thank all of the civilians and veterans who are watching it right now on Fox Nation. And from the bottom of my heart, let them know that this is a journey that all of us are part of right now. It's a journey about America.
Yeah, that is so true. And, you know, we are right in the shadow right now of the anniversary of D-Day, and we think about the great American men and women who have gone before us, who are serving right now, who will serve after us. Your Fox Nation series called Footsteps of My Father, what I appreciated was the personal nature of it. My grandpa was a captain in the Army in World War II, met my grandma in Australia. I mean, it is a war story, but it's my story, and this is your story. And learning about your father's faith and learning about some of the challenges he faced and his decision to continue to go back and fight, what pushed you to take your interest in his story to the levels of walking where he went when he was in Vietnam?
Well, you know, I always knew that I wanted to see more and learn more about the war, but Annie, he didn't talk about it when he was alive. That was just not something that he wanted to focus on. When he came home in 1971 on his second tour of duty, it was the end of a war that we would not win. And it was the latter stages of so much blood and treasure that were spent by America. And he went on to serve in the military. Some men who I met who are veterans in their 80s now in Vietnam, seeing it for the first time when I was there just recently, told me that they came home, took off their uniform, and never put it back on again. I mean, people were spitting on them. They were telling them that they were nothing. And my father's goal all along when he left was to show the world that we are united in our love for country. And that while we were going through, you know, racial struggles during the time that he joined the military, he would tell younger family members in particular, you have to decide if you want to be part of what changes America's mind about our way forward together. And if you're going, if you're going to do that, he said, let me be part of that. And so I recorded some of it before he passed, his voice, and I used that in the special, you know, from watching it. But I never got the whole story about what it was like to serve there until I followed in his footsteps in Vietnam. And it's been life-changing for me. It was just born out of curiosity. I want to know the rest of the story. And like everything I do as a journalist, I just kept pressing until I found out more.
Yep, you've got those skills, that's for sure, to get into the bottom of the story. Harris Faulkner is with us right now from Fox News. Her series, Footsteps of My Father, is on Fox Nation right now. It is a great series, a story well told. I was struck by the moment where you talk about in your backpack carrying the flag that you have from your father, and you took it out. And I think it was when you were sitting at the footsteps of Jesus Christ. That's in the middle of this very, you know, it's not like they're known for their Christian faith. You are, certainly. And I thought, what a moment to tie all of these elements of your dad together with these elements of you, where even in this moment, in that place, and you tell the story of some peace that has been made between those who fought in Vietnam with those who are there locally. It's just kind of like an ending to a story that I think a lot of Americans right now would be in pursuit of?
So first of all, I wanted to retrace those footsteps that led my father to share his faith in wartime. He was not shy about it, whether he met South Vietnamese who they were fighting with and alongside and for to try to preserve their democracy against a North that was highly influenced by benefactors like China and the former Soviet Union. And they were giving them money for warfare. And as you can imagine, I mean, it's just like today. we had a lot of lessons to learn. I hope we've learned, because the old is new again with our enemies. But what I wanted to show is that our men and women made a difference, and we do every place we go as Americans. And as a warrior, my dad made a difference because he talked about his faith. In a country that's 90 to 90% Buddhism and Tao, which leaves a small sliver for everybody else, one of the largest statues in all the world sits in Vietnam in an area called Vung Tau, just off the China Sea. High atop a mountaintop. It's beautiful. And I chose to take my father's flag out there because I would want him to see that coming as a whole person, as a warrior, with your freedoms of religion intact, I think was really impactful for our men who fought. And it's part of the legacy that I have no doubt that they left behind. For me, just seeing the opportunity for peace isn't enough. I got to meet the U.S. ambassador to Vietnam. That was purely by chance. By the way, just so you know the quick backstory on that. So Xi Jinping, who is the leader of China, communist China, comes across the border that they share with Vietnam when he wants. And he showed up that day.
Oh.
And when he shows up, sometimes you'll see American diplomats kind of doing the stay low. And so that created an opportunity for this ambassador who knew I was in Vietnam to say, I'll meet you at Red Beach. I don't know if you knew this, but our dad served contemporaneously. Wow. He said, my father was part of the contingent that came in that first round, too. And so we met on the beach where our Marines first landed and got everything started for combat for us as a country. And just to meet someone who is the child of a diplomat, a warrior rather, who became a diplomat, who really truly believed in what could happen with Vietnam and has spent most of his career trying to bring us forward, to meet with somebody with that much confidence in who we are as Americans, as patriots, made me proud in that moment. I couldn't wait to interview him. Yeah. And I said, well, let's talk about our dads. And we did. And what I learned was the other thing we left behind, our warrior dads, was hope and a strategy to get to peace. And how they could, even though they may be different, they could have their own brand of communism that would have room for a friend like the United States of America. Remember, the South Vietnamese are still among them. They remember democracy.
Yeah. And
I just was so moved by that. And it makes me more hopeful than ever.
It comes through. And of course, we're walking through the footsteps of your father, which is the name of the series.
I'm so glad you walked with me.
Yes. I mean,
you
that it's such a personal way. Of course, there's a lot of politics that surround the Vietnam War. There's a lot. I was born in 1984. So this is history to me. So watching it was telling me a story that fits in with the other stories that I've heard. And I'm thinking about pulling that into modern day times and thinking about all of the conflicts that exist in the world where America has 1 foot in, 1 foot out, maybe 2 feet in, and we just rip them right out, whatever it might be. My generation is the generation that went to Afghanistan. My generation is the one that went to Iraq and Iran in great conflict. And I know that there is a lot of trepidation about people who served over there, and they question what they did and why they know why they went. They know why they served. But at the end, the full view is there's conflict there. And it's so important for Americans to appreciate those people who went, but also to understand the humanity of it, and that these are real people who believed something in their heart and their minds, and they had the guts to do it. And they're the greatest among us.
I agree. And I think that with each holiday that passes, particularly for men who served like your grandfather, who was a captain in World War II. We are losing these warriors. And Congressman of Florida, Republican Congressman Michael Waltz, said something to me on the air today. He's leaving for Normandy, France. In fact, he's in the air now. So 2 hours ago, we were talking live, and he said, look, this will likely be the last anniversary of that every 5 years. He said, I celebrated 75th by jumping with ex-warriors. And he said, I'm going to do it again tomorrow. I'll be in France. We're going to take another skydive jump together. He said, but to think about 75, 80, 85, he said, the 85th anniversary is longer than the average lifespan of an American.
Yeah.
And we have some of the longest lifespan on planet, not the longest, but we do well. And he said, but the reality is we'll lose so many more in that 5 years. And he said it's extra special and extra important that we say thank you. And what I learned, Annie, and I shared this with him and I share this with everyone, the great kernel of knowledge for me, the visceral point for me coming home from Vietnam was knowing what to say when I see a Vietnam veteran now. And yes, we can thank them for their service, but let's not forget what they went through when they got home. They came home to a nation divided and violent over the war that we were fighting, that they were fighting. I simply say, welcome home. Welcome home. And thank you for loving this nation so much that you would go so far in her name.
Yeah. Amen to that. I think that if people are thinking about, as we've just passed Memorial Day, we're going to be acknowledging D-Day here shortly. There are lots of holidays that we use to kind of pause and take these moments. But in between those moments, if you log on to Fox Nation, you'll see Footsteps of My Father there. And that is the series that Harris Faulkner has done so very well about her dad in Vietnam. And, the thing of it is, you hear a lot that history is written by the victors, but there's a different kind of history that is written by the generations. And that's what you've really done to make this a personal story. And it's very, very important for people to see this, to hear this story, specifically about Vietnam. Of course, anybody who fought. And I'm really grateful that you did it and that it's on Fox Nation, so easy to watch and to take in and to listen to.
Thank you for those words, history written by the generations. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the opportunity to connect hearts with you, as I always do, Annie. Sometimes we do it on social media, but you and I are connected right now. I see people are listening to us because I just looked, and one of my teammates just sent me, did you know this was live right now?
Yeah,
yes,
we stream it in a few places.
Live. But
Yeah.
like my teenage daughters like to remind me, Mom, it doesn't happen unless you do something with the information, like take a picture. I'm like, dude, it's happening.
Yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity. Vietnam Footsteps of My Father is a limited series, 3 parts. It's on Fox Nation right now. And veterans are watching this. And as we go into D-Day and you share memories with wonderful people like Annie, remember that we generationally are very, very special. We are exceptional. And if we are having recruitment problems right now, issues or challenges, let's us as civilians and as the children and grandchildren of great warriors remind people of the valor and the importance of service, and that they are always welcome to come home. We love them.
Can't say it any better than that. Harris Faulkner, thank you for your time today. We're really grateful for it.
Take care, Annie.
Yep,
Bye.
you as well. Bye-bye. Harris Faulkner, the wonderful documentary that you can see. Fox Nation. If you have not gotten a subscription to Fox Nation yet, you are missing out on great content. Admittedly, based on what I do, but also my interests, I watch a lot of Fox News. I dip into the other places just to see where they at on these stories, try to broaden my perspective. YouTube every once in a while, but Fox Nation, that's where I fill my time. And there are wonderful series on there that you can take in. And it was such a pleasure to be able to see the personal side of Harris Faulkner and her relationship with her dad's relationship serving as an Army combat pilot in the Vietnam War. Go check it out.